At Sony's 2017 E3 conference, they showed off a new gameplay trailer of the upcoming God of War, and there are a ton of things to talk about, so here's my analysis. First off, I want to mention something that Cory Barlog, the creative director of the game, said during the E3 Coliseum stage interview. In it, he talks about all the different mythologies that was considered doing back when the game was in the concept stage, and he says that the reason Kratos ended up in a different mythology is because in the God of War universe, all the different mythologies actually coexist in the same world. And the reason I found this so interesting is because I always thought he ended up in Norse mythology because of a portal or something like that. But we can assume he ended up here while trying to find a new home, since he kind of destroyed his old homeland, it's gone. The trailer begins with Kratos and his son Atreus. We see them in a rowboat out on the sea, and one of the first things that'll catch your eye is Kratos' axe. We don't really know much about it yet, other than that it has magical powers, which primarily looks to be ice magic, which makes sense because a lot of the enemies that appear in the trailer look fire-based. The axe also shares a resemblance to Mjölnir, Thor's hammer, in the way that he can throw it away and summon it back, and I have a theory as to why it can do that. In Norse mythology, two dwarves, Brokkr and Eitri, created Mjölnir, and I believe that the same dwarves crafted the axe that Kratos is using. They may not have made it for Kratos initially, or maybe they were kind of forced into making it. And we actually see two dwarves later in the trailer, and I think there's a good chance that they are in fact Brokkr and Eitri. But let's go back to the beginning. Atreus says,
"Are you gonna do it?"
And Kratos throws his axe into the water. Why he does this, I don't really know. Maybe it's a way to summon the World Serpent? Then we are taken to another scene, probably either taking place right before or right after the previous one. In this scene, Atreus confronts Kratos.
"You said I was cursed. You think I'm weak because I'm not like you."
You do not know everything, boy.
No. But at least I know the truth now.
The truth he's referring to is probably Kratos' actions during the other games. Or maybe he only partially knows what he's done in the past, seeing as Kratos says, "You do not know everything, boy." After this, we get a shot of this big fucker. And this guy is probably one of the Jotnar, the giants. In the myth, Odin, Vili and Ve killed all of the Jotnar. As for which giant this is, I'm not sure. But I've seen some people say that it might be Ymir. But this wouldn't really make sense, seeing as how Ymir's corpse was used to make the world of humans. So his body probably doesn't exist in a form like the giant we see here. Next to the body, people have pointed out something that looks like Thor's hammer. Maybe the body's Thor himself, as we've yet to see the actual size of the gods, but I honestly don't think it is. If we look at Kratos from this shot, we can see that he has a head attached around his waist. At first I thought this was the head of Helios from God of War 3, just that it had aged over time. But when you look a little closer, you see that the head only has its right eye. Now, which Norse god do we know that only has one eye? Odin. Well, the real question here is if this really is Odin. Many believe it is Baldur, the god of light, seeing as how his eye is glowing. It doesn't explain why he's missing an eye though. Maybe it's missing because of how Kratos killed him or something like that. Next we see two wolves, and I think these are the sons of Fenrir the wolf, Skull and Hati. Over this shot we hear a voice, presumably Loki's voice.
Long way from home, aren't you? And here I thought your kind was supposed to be so enlightened, so much better than us.
Here he is referring to the Olympians, and we see a vase that has a painting of Kratos on it. This could imply that they not only knew about the Olympians, maybe they even admired them in a way. I think it's more likely, however, that the vase ended up here as part of stolen treasure.
The gods of these realms don't take kindly to outsiders, trust me. When they find you, and they will, they'll make things difficult.
We see a woman talking to Kratos a little later in the trailer. We don't know who she is yet, but I believe she is from Olympus like Kratos, seeing as he can understand her. After this we get more of the combat, which definitely looks faster paced than it did in the gameplay reveal. We also get to see a new weapon. It's attached to his gauntlet and transforms into a shield, and by the look of it you can use the shield on its own or with the axe. As we can see here, he is using them both at the same time. Atreus will help you in combat. As we can see here, he's clinging onto this enemy, and when Kratos hits it into the air, he shoots it with an arrow that explodes with lightning. Atreus will probably help you more and more in combat throughout the game, as Kratos is teaching him how to become a warrior. We then see a familiar type of enemy, the one we saw Kratos fight in the first trailer. He gets knocked back and flies through the air. This might be something that can happen at random in combat, or maybe it's his first encounter with the enemy that doesn't go so well.
Wow, that was something, that fight.
Before I talked about the two dwarves that made Thor's hammer, and I think this dwarf might be one of them. It looks like he recognizes the axe after Kratos throws it into the rock beside him. Behind the dwarf there are smithing tools and weapons, reinforcing the idea. Although it might not be the same dwarf that created Thor's hammer, because dwarves in Norse mythology in general are known for their prowess in smithing and crafting. Even if Brokkr and Eitri didn't create it, I still believe that dwarves made it. Later in the trailer we see another dwarf, and it looks like they're about to do something to the axe, maybe make it stronger or something. Right after this, Kratos and his son are sailing down a river. It looks like the rowboat will be a big part of the game, letting you traverse to new areas and maybe explore the world more openly. Now we do know that this game is not a complete open world, but I think it's safe to assume it's a semi-open world game. The game definitely wants you to go a certain direction to progress, but I think that it will allow for more exploration of the environment than the other games. Now let's talk about Atreus. Atreus is a Greek name, but I do not believe that he is the same Atreus that is spoken of in Greek mythology. I don't think there is any correlation other than the name. We already know that the son is very important to the story, and most of the game will revolve around the relationship between Kratos and him. We still don't know too much about the boy, and the thing that I think everyone wants to know now is who his mother is. And it doesn't look like we'll get to know until the game is released and we find out for ourselves.
What is this?
It's the World Serpent.
Take hold, boy!
I am!
What is it saying?
He wants to help us!
The highlight of the trailer has to be the interaction with the World Serpent, or Mjölnir, one of Loki's sons. In the last God of War trailer we actually saw the World Serpent down by the water at the end of the trailer. And this time we get to see it for real, and the serpent says it wants to help them. And I have a theory as to why it's offering to help. The World Serpent's archenemy is actually Thor, so my theory is that it will help you, but it has a condition. It wants you to kill Thor. You might have noticed right before the serpent comes out of the water that there is actually a statue of Thor to the left. Could this be a hint towards something like that happening? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below if I missed anything. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed.